Hello, and welcome back to another video here on A Course in Miracles, and A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. Yeah, so here we are at the beautiful end of this review period. We're on lesson 220. So for the past 20 days or more, for the past 20 videos anyway, what we've been doing here is we've been reviewing ideas in the workbook that we've seen previously with the purpose of meeting the ideas again and in a different light, in a different context, with a different overarching theme. As you've seen, the workbook has several review periods interspersed throughout, so it truly is a curriculum, a self-study curriculum. Just like a university class or a class in high school or secondary school or whatever you called that, wherever you live in whatever part of the world you come from, it's reviewing. It's reviewing ideas. Now, in school, there would be a final examination. Well, there is no final exam in a spiritual self-study curriculum, which is a good thing, right? It's a good thing. We heap enough pressure on ourselves as it is. We don't need a final, and we don't need finals week and a weighted exam that's 80% of our semester grade and fun stuff like that. We don't need that. So how then do we measure our learning? Right? It's a legitimate question in spiritual inquiry, isn't it? Is how do we know that all of this effort, that all of this energy that we've put into the practice, into the study of spirituality, how do we know that it's bearing any fruit? I mean, how do we know, right? It's a legitimate question in spiritual inquiry. And one of the things that we can do, and I invite you to consider this, is think of where you were when you began. If we're talking about the workbook for students, today's lesson 220, think about 220 days ago or more when you started this journey. Are you any different today? Have you noticed? I mean, have you stopped to think about that? And maybe the answer is no. And if you haven't, then maybe you can do that, right? Are you more forgiving? Are you a little bit more patient with people? Are you, in fact, more loving? And that can be a very, very straightforward way of seeing, oh yeah, there's been some sort of a shift here. There's been some sort of a, whether it's huge or whether it's just very gradual, doesn't make any difference. Are you different today when you really examine it, as compared with when you began? And that's one way. And the same questions. And also I would throw in, how do you feel about yourself? We have very negative attitudes toward ourselves sometimes. Sometimes without thinking, sometimes with a lot of thinking, too much thinking, maybe. We pin labels on ourselves, such as procrastinator, bad at math, bad with finances, right? Anxious. Now, when we heap a lot of labels on ourselves, do you feel any differently 220 days in? And if you search your mind, if you search your feelings and the answer is, well, no, not really, but I'm willing to continue to move forward, then great. Remember, there are 365 lessons in the workbook, and when you get through all of them, it's the beginning, not the end. One of my favorite teachers from this lifetime, human teachers, Lama Michael Conklin, a Tibetan Buddhist Lama, just has had I've mentioned him a couple of times on this series of videos and on the live stream because he's funny. He's funny. You have to have a sense of humor, don't you, when you do this work? Absolutely, right? And he's funny. And there is a practice that in Tibetan Buddhism called Nundro, which is a series of, well, to sum it up, it's a series of repeated practices. I mean, multiple repetitions, many, many more than 365 here in the workbook for students. In fact, to go through all of this training can take several years, in fact. And one of his oldest students finished this practice, this series of practices, and came up to him gleeful one day, said, I finished, and was very excited. And then she posed the question, what do I do next? And he opened up the curriculum, handed it to her, the text, and turned to page 1 and said, here. So, in other words, even when we get to the end, it's not the end. Yeah, you may have gone through the workbook if you've done this before. Maybe you're on the 3rd, 4th, 5th go through. It's like watching a movie multiple times or reading a novel multiple times, isn't it? You always pick up on something that was always there before, but you didn't see that then. Now you're noticing different things. It's the same for this workbook. So all of this is a fairly long-winded discourse in saying we need reviews. So today in lesson 220, again, we've been sitting with the idea, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. And again, we emphasize that idea, which is a statement of truth. It's who we are. So we've gone over this in this format for the last 20 days with repeated emphasis on this, because we're hoping that this carries forward into the rest of life, right? And the purpose of repeating this statement, which is fairly, with the rhyme especially, is fairly easy to commit to memory. Yeah, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. It's a statement of truth. And we see it again for 20 days so that it may go right to the heart and be something ever present in our lives, that we may be able to recall this idea when needed again. Because it will be needed, because we are going to get swept off of our feet and pulled back into our habitual tendencies, which is nothing more than our ego-clinging tendencies, our societal, familial relationship conditioning. Yeah. I mean, there's a saying in the world, of course, old habits die hard. Well, I mean, they kind of do in this context because they're so familiar. We just keep returning to them over and over and over again. So, hence the review, hence the emphasis. We're not bodies. And the review idea in lesson 220 is lesson 200, which you may remember, there is no peace except the peace of God. There is no peace except the peace of God. In A Course in Miracles, we say, God is. And that's it. Yeah. And then fall silent, mic drop, walk away, right? That's a statement of the ultimate truth, which of course, ultimate truth is beyond words. Words are simply symbols of the things that they represent. They are not the things themselves, and the things themselves are not what they appear to be either. So when we say in words God is, that is the closest that words can come to ultimate truth. If only God is, then it would follow, yes, that there is no peace except the peace of God. Now, the Course invites us to want only this, to seek only this, the peace of God, to set truth as the goal in life and in every situation that we encounter in life, into every relationship, setting the goal of truth. Above all else, we want the peace of God. There is no peace except the peace of God. If only God is, then only love is, only peace is, and there's one kind. It's just peace. It's just love. There are no gradations. There are no divisions. We cannot, even though we want to try, we cannot go off and love on certain people and hate on and dump on others. We come to realize, and A Course in Miracles helps us greatly in discovering this and experiencing this for ourselves. We come to realize that it truly is, as the Course says, all or nothing. I mean, really, that's kind of what it's saying. Love is either total or it's not at all. We're either choosing love or we're choosing fear. We're either choosing God or we're choosing the ego. You can't have both. It's actually not possible for there to be both. And in this one choice, one of our choices is real, the other is not. Too often we've followed after the one that's not, the illusion, the ephemeral. Remember yesterday? Ephemeral, not lasting, right? My hair doesn't look like it did 30 years ago. For example, that's just one example. Yeah. Too often we've chased after shiny objects, taken them for real, and, well, mistaken them really for reality. Here we're giving ourselves a profound gift of taking a step back. Taking a step back and giving ourselves the healing gift of spiritual practice, devoting time to this and all of the other workbook lessons. And now, if you're following this in addition to another spiritual practice, add that, right? Add your own rituals, add your own prayers, add your own services, whatever that looks like for you, your own meditations. Could be a walk in the woods, really, truly. This self-study curriculum is designed to either stand alone or to enhance and complement whatever tradition or traditions you currently practice. No one is required to do anything. In fact, we're not required to do anything. We have free will. It's our choice to make in the present moment. But the more we practice, the more we allow these ideas to permeate the very fabric of our being, to take them to heart, so to speak, and to apply them, to begin to apply them in our daily life, the more we realize there's nothing else that we really want but the peace of God. There's nothing else that we really want. So we can remind ourselves of this, and as often as you need to think about today's idea and practice it, please do so. It is the best investment that you can make in yourself, and it's the best thing that we can do for other people, is to offer our own practice. All right. We'll see you next time.